Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2, roll call.
Nelson.
Here.
Orison.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Wunschel.
Here.
Hanson.
Here.
Reed. Moriarty.
Here.
Item 3, consent agenda. A is a motion to approve City Council minutes of December 21, 2020. There are no licenses. And C is a resolution authorizing permanent transfer of funds of budgeted transfers for the month ending December 31, 2020. First by Tom, second by Tracy. Discussion or questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none, vote by machine, please.
Nelson, I. Orison, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Reed, I. Moriarty, I.
Thank you. Item 4, old business. 4A is a ordinance amending Title 9, Chapter 11, Section 11D concerning residential exterior wall and roof material. This is the second filing. At the last council meeting, Anna gave a review and answered questions regarding the first filing.
I'll introduce that.
First by Bill,
Second.
second by Donovan. Discussion, questions? Hearing none, vote by machine, please.
Nelson, I. Orison, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Reed, I. Moriarty, I.
Thank you. Item 5A is a public hearing on amendment to current budget for fiscal year ending June 30, 2021. I declare the public hearing open. Have we received any written comments against?
We have none.
Are there any oral comments against? Have we received written comments in favor of?
We have none.
Are there any oral comments in favor of? I declare the public hearing closed. 5A1 is a resolution amending the current budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021.
I'll make a motion on that.
First by Ron, second by Bill. Discussion, questions related to this?
Brian, is this just basically housekeeping or basically like we do every season about now?
Well, we'll do it as needed. Technically, we can't exceed program area until the budget's been amended, and the big one driving it obviously is that land purchase.
Right.
But then this is catching up some other things, and then we'll usually do 2 to 3 a year.
Correct.
So one will come towards the end of the fiscal year as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, vote by machine, please.
Nelson, I. Orison, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Reed, I. Moriarty, I.
Thank you. Item 6, new business. 6A is an ordinance, excuse me, to update the schedule of street and sidewalk grades. This is the first filing. First by Bill. Second by George. Discussion, questions related to this?
Can I get a little explanation on how often we do this? I know this one looks like it's been a while, and some of the numbers that are on here too, on just kind of general overview of what they're meaning.
So you're required by Iowa code to establish street grades. I think the underlying theory is so that people don't build their homes or houses too low below the street and then it can't drain to the street. So it's really kind of a drainage requirement. They're general in nature. You'll see one number for the entire intersection. we used to always say, well, somewhere in that intersection will be that grade, you know, things are crowned both ways and drains around. So there's a lot of different grades, but that's, so you're required by code to have a street grade, and so we do that. And so sometimes when the streets are reconstructed, that grade, which we usually use the center of the intersection, will change. The drainage won't necessarily because it drains in the gutters, but sometimes, especially like the old seal coat streets, if you're taking out that crown, they get flattened, and so the numbers change. And so annually, we try to update the ordinance to reflect any changes.
Thank you, Jim. Any other questions related to this? Did that answer your question, Donovan? Yep. Okay. Hearing none, vote by machine, please.
Nelson, I. Orison, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Reed, I. Moriarty, I.
Thank you. Item 6B is a resolution to extend COVID-19 leave to employees, basically into the calendar year that we're currently in.
I'll make a motion on that.
First by Ron.
I'll second.
Second by George. Questions, discussion on this?
Amanda, how does that work in the acts? Do we get some credit for that, or how does that, or does that go against their sick leave that they have accumulated?
Well, so the COVID bank is a separate bank.
Right.
So how it worked through December 31st is that every employee had 80 hours in a separate bank that they could draw from if they were quarantined, if they were out with COVID, if they were caring for a kid or immediate family member with COVID. If they used all of those 80 hours and were still out, then they would draw from their regular sick leave bank. So this is specifically for COVID, and if an employee would leave while they have hours in their COVID bank, those don't get paid out like the regular sick leave bank does. We currently have employees who are out using COVID leave, and so we felt it appropriate to extend it to cover that, and we anticipate that there may be more after the holidays.
So how does that work on our budgeting then? Because that wasn't something we put in our budget to begin with. Brian, does that affect our budget, or no,
It doesn't impact the budget because we were
paying
them anyway.
Okay,
Right, like
that's
if they
how-
were here at work, they'd get
okay.
a paycheck, so.
Amanda, I have a question.
Yep.
Once we get to April 30th and this is discontinued, does that bank go away if it hasn't been used?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And council can always decide to extend that if
Right.
necessary.
Understand.
But those hours are just for COVID as long as council allows them to be used for COVID.
So the 2 weeks though, if they had it in 2020, do they get another 2 weeks in?
No, it's 80 hours total.
It's, okay.
Yep.
All right.
So those that have used theirs don't get it replenished.
But, that's right, yeah.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
So
Is there reimbursement of any sort, federal or state on that?
So the FFCRA Act through December 31st did provide a tax credit for private entities. There's really no way to recoup that for local government entities. The new act continued the 80 hours of leave on a voluntary basis. So if your company wanted to continue to offer that, you could, and you would still receive the tax credits, but it's not required now as it was before.
Any other discussion related to this? All right, hearing none, vote by machine, please.
Nelson, I. Orison, I. Larson, I. Wunschel, I. Hanson, I. Reed, I. Moriarty, I.
Thank you. Item 7, department head reports. I know at least Brian's on the phone. If anybody else is, it's not in person, just speak up when we get down to your department. 7A is the Planning Department. Amanda?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I just have a couple of things. So last week in the planning department, they completed 3 electrical inspections, 1 plumbing inspection. There are a couple of new economic development related projects that they have been working with the contractors on in conjunction with the fire department, sprinkler requirements, things like that. The Board of Adjustment met this morning. They did approve 4 moving permits and denied 1 variance request for setbacks. Anna is also working with FEMA on a program called the National Flood Insurance Community Rating System to determine if we should or can pursue that status. So there's still work going on with that. And Anna will be attending the ICC Educational Institute in February, which will likely be virtual. Lauren and I met before Christmas to review the planning director job description. Had a good conversation about that, so we'll be bringing some recommendations in the near future on how to move that forward.
Amanda, I have a question for planning. During, I think it was early last year, Eric Tigas, I think, came in and talked about FEMA, and is that the right, I have the right person? And there's something about each council member is supposed to take a test?
Yep, that was 2 years ago.
2 years ago?
Uh-huh.
And consequently, I haven't done it.
Well, you can't be a council member anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
I knew I was going to get out of this. So, do the new council members even know about that?
My guess would be no.
Okay.
So I'll reach out to Eric. I'm assuming now everything is online, even the training. And there was some conversation because some of you took the test a long time ago, and do you need to retake
Yeah,
it?
I think Ron did, and he was the only one.
Yeah, and Steve Baumgars, when he was on.
But of the current council, he
Yeah.
may be the only one.
So I'll follow back up with Eric and
Okay.
see what we need to do to restart that. It's a very riveting hours of training.
But
So,
apparently it has something to do with FEMA reimbursement if we've not, I remember him, that either that was a threat or it was true, is that we all need to take that test, or take the course anyway,
okay.
in order to receive full reimbursement on FEMA. And that's my understanding when and Teresa's shaking her head, that was my understanding of when he talked to us.
Yeah, he said they could, audit us to
Right.
see if we had done that. I think
Yep.
that's kind of how he addressed it.
So just to have maybe just a committee of the whole and have him come back and
Yeah,
do a walkthrough, I think would be good.
good
I
idea.
think that falls under planning, that's why I asked the question, so, thank
Yep,
you.
I'll reach out to him.
Thank you. Any other questions for Amanda? Library? Mandy, are you on the phone? Nope. Fire Department, Chief Gagnon?
Manager, Happy New Year. December saw a nice quiet way out of 2020, if there is a quiet way out. We did have 52 calls for service, 15 fire calls, a few false alarms. We did have a Christmas morning steam break at Jones School. That was pretty interesting. A couple of gas leaks, a couple of accidents, a couple of investigations, some lift assists. We had 37 EMS runs. Out of those 37, over half were all COVID related, which is just a thing of the future right now. EMS and training, we had 8 trainings that were all related to EMS, and we have a couple of our members that are going through a new EMT course, and that's pretty much that. Real fast to answer the Councilman Orison's question. The class that you're looking at is NIMS 100. And NIMS 100 really fast, and a fast overload is just how do we do structure, and how is our command structure. And case in point, it's a good thing to have on board. So we understand what everybody's roles are and how we deploy. And it really came into event a couple of years ago during our high water flooding. And it's well worthwhile to have in your back pocket. It's like, how do you organize a herd of cats? And Pardon me?
Especially these,
Oh, yeah, no, it's anything, and it'll pay dividends to you, to all of us, and as well as to our city. And you are correct, it is part of, being audited and things like that. Other than that, we're looking forward to a new year. Big shout out to the firefighters that worked this morning, in the 1700 block of East 4th Avenue. We had a good structure fire there and no loss of life, and that's always a big plus. So, any questions? If not, I thank you very much and have a good, happy new year.
Thank you, Chief. Police Department?
Good evening to everybody here tonight. It's always a pleasure to come here the first part of the year. We'll get to do this in July. History has proven that January and July is when the chief takes off, and I get to stand up here to give you guys this year. Total calls that we had for 2020 was 11,538. Without pulling stats over the last couple of years, I know these numbers were down. That comes from COVID. So you can look at that as a good thing or a bad thing. It's a good because the numbers were down. Our job, we want those numbers to be down. The bad thing was we did go through a chunk of time where we asked officers to do your job, but to be diligent with what you do, watching who you deal with and that type of stuff. So our numbers were down a little bit on that. For December, we had 469 calls with 29 arrests coming out of that month there as well. So I can say, like I said, from 2020, our numbers were down, but our guys still did their jobs. It was kind of neat to see, and I don't know if that's the right term to use, but sitting back as a supervisor, as a lieutenant, doing this since 2001, to be able to go, okay, we got a crisis at the forefront, what do we do? And there was a period of time of playing catch up. We've never been through any of this. And our guys did extremely well dealing and changing. There was some grumbling to be expected, but that's how you proceed forward. And I do foresee some of these changes possibly sticking with us to keep us safe and that type of stuff there. When I look over 2020, as much as a crummy of a year as it was, you always got to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. One of the things that we changed, and this is near and dear to my heart, is the 5K run that we did back in August. I thought we were going to have to cancel it this year, and somebody, and I don't remember who, said, why don't we try a virtual run? On average, we host 100 to 175 people on that run. We had like 110 this year. So when you're doing 110, when we're not even showing up with the free goodies, that's awesome. And again, that shows you the kind of community that we work for. And so that's just something to put in the back of your head as we do our jobs as city employees, that we got a great community that backs us. The other big thing that I've always loved seeing us do is Shop with a Cop, which we do in December. We took 4 or 5 different individuals from different families, and typically what we will do is we'll get together with the State Patrol, Clay County Sheriff's Department, and ourselves, and it is super cool when you see 15 different kids with 15 different officers shopping at Walmart. The chief just talked about herding cats. That's literally what this is, but it's a fun group of cats to be with. What we did this year is we did do it on our own, and our guys went out separately with these children. So it was one officer, one kid, and those guys, in fact, the email I received from one of the officers was awesome. He said this was one of the greatest experiences he has ever been a part of and would do it again in a heartbeat. And that's him just hanging out with one individual. So we made that work so we could try to bring something back to the community for these individuals. But we can't, as a police department, do this by ourselves. We want to take the time to say thank you to the ones who have donated throughout 2020. We know that there are jobs that, have been cut back. We still receive donations to put into our association, so we were able to do this. So with that being said, 2021's here, but like I said, leave 2020 at least looking at the positives that you could come out with it. Any questions at all? We'll see you in July.
Thank you, Kyle. Public Works, Mark?
Good evening. It was kind of strange navigating year 2020 with COVID. It's interesting, some of our numbers are up and some of them were down. Craig did a nice job putting our annual report together. I'm certainly not going to read every detail to you, but I found it interesting that the sidewalk and grade stakes inspections, or the permits, were up 81. There was 166 inspections. Now, this number comes through combined with the sewer and the plumbing inspections. There was 357 of those inspections. One nice thing we'd like to highlight is our sewer cleaning. The total footage was 126,573 feet. That's a 90% increase over last year. So as we navigated the year and moved folks around, sometimes we were able to put workers by themselves or isolated on other jobs and maybe not congregated on a construction project. And the sewer certainly shows that. The last year, the year before, we were 735 man-hours. Last year was 1,033 man-hours. So the miles swept, I thought you might find that interesting, was 1,536 miles that the street sweepers ran over, removed 1,991 cubic yards of material. The really interesting part about that is that keeps that from going into the sewer. That was into the street cleaners and hauled out. RCC was down. The Regional Collection Center was down a little bit, probably from people not being out as much. But still proud of 21,744 pounds of household hazardous waste that was kept from going into the landfill. So with that, we'll keep it short unless you have any questions. What's that?
How's the fire?
How's the fire? Yeah, we did experience a fire at the landfill again. The really interesting part, if you're in the landfill business, it's the same area. It's probably the same fire that's been going on under the surface. So crews were dispatched on New Year's Day with smoke coming from the older part of the cell and two different hot spots that were close together. We were fortunate to have an excavator that was able to come on site. Pretty much you have to dig that material out, get it up on top of the surface, move it, extinguish it. They worked till about 8:30 on New Year's Day, and then the next day on Saturday, and then again on Sunday they worked part of the day. John Conyon went over, our chief, offered some advice as well today and some moral support for Chuck. I would say it's contained, it's under control. That doesn't mean it's completed or completely extinguished, but it's certainly manageable, and we'll continue to dig down deeper in those areas and try to get to the root of it and not have it go on and on. It's pretty interesting that something can smolder that long under the surface and continue to cause some issues till it catches some oxygen.
Danger of damaging that membrane in the cell?
There could be. There isn't with this one, but there has been some horror stories of fires in landfills where the liners got on fire, and the Iowa City one started with tire chips on the bottom of the cell, and then those caught on fire, and then that caught the liner on fire, and then that turned into a molten tar mess that went into the sewer system through their leachate collection. So we're light years ahead of that. So, but thank you to the landfill and Chuck spending his holiday and with his crew. So we appreciate that.
You sure that's not a volcano starting?
I don't.
There's an earthquake in South Dakota today. Maybe George knows. Did you
I'd
hear that?
I'd heard a rumor, so if it is an earthquake, I'd steer clear of the outfall. So that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you, Mark. F, Park and Recreation. That's not your grade, Jared. That's just the agenda item.
Well, it would be typical of my grade, so. Good evening. We continue to work on some snow removal stuff, stuff that, like the North Trail that drifts in quite a bit while we have some nice days here. We're going to try to open that back up. They were working on that today. I'm going to try to work on that again tomorrow. Continue to work on some maintenance, equipment maintenance, and tree trimming and stuff as well. We're working on filling the ice rink currently today, and we'll add some more of it tomorrow and later in the week, so it should be ready to go for anybody that wants to use that stuff. Continue to work on Cardinal baseball, trying to get that back here. One thing we're going to be focusing on here in the next month or so is host families. So we've tried other avenues due to COVID to try to work with hotels and apartments and things like that, and it's just some of that's not feasible. Some of it's the concerns of having a teenage kid by themselves in an apartment. So we're going to try to put out some promotional materials for the team, as well as we've put together a host family program, and we'll be advertising that here soon for anybody that feels comfortable in having a player come stay in their home for 6 to 8 weeks at a time. So we continue to work on that. We're working on F8 Creative. They've been gracious enough to donate some work to try to revamp the logo of Cardinal Field and the Spencer Cardinals, and try to get that rebranded a little bit to try to gain some more excitement and backing to Spencer Cardinals. The other project we're working on is the rocket slide. We've developed a pretty good cost estimate for refurbishing that equipment, and now we just need to set a timeline, work on some sort of funding campaign and strategy here coming up. We're going to try to look at what grant opportunities we can do through Clay County Heritage, Clay County Community Foundation grants, things like that. So be on the lookout for some of those items as well. For our WOW projects, we continue to work on cost estimates. We're hoping to have most of those, or if not all of them, finished up by next week. I spoke with Stockwell Engineers, who are looking at splash pad, campground relocation, and the aquatic center upgrades. I will be sending out an email to that WOW project committee on trying to set a date so they can present some of their designs, some of their initial cost estimates here either next week or the following week. And then finally, a few of the events that are going to be held in the parks here coming up is this Saturday, the Blazing Pines event. Now, while we can't do the full event with ice skating and s'mores and everything else, it'll be on January 9th at 6 p.m. is when we'll burn all the Christmas trees down in West Leach Park. We're going to try to make kind of a drive-in deal where we park cars in that hayfield in West Leach Park so people can view that and watch that from the comfort of their car, the warmth of their car. On January 23rd in East Leach and West Leach Park, we've partnered with the Clay County Conservation Board on a snowshoeing event from 10 to noon. If you've never snowshoed before, this will be an event to try that out. Get outside, get some exercise, and learn how to snowshoe. The Conservation Board will provide the snowshoes, but they ask that you do register prior to that on their website. And then finally in February, on February 6th, the Iowa Great Lakes Fishing Club will be holding another youth fishing, ice fishing event out at Stolly Park from 1 to 3. So, any questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. G, golf course. Brian, I know you're on the phone.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Everybody hear me okay?
You bet.
All right. Just been working on some equipment. Obviously, my update stated I'm trying to gain some welding experience from the street division staff to help with some repairs and whatnot with the equipment. That's probably been about the biggest thing, getting the budget ready to go. So, I think outside of that, everything was pretty much covered in my update, and that's it. Unless there's any questions.
Doesn't look like any, Brian.
Thank you.
You bet. H, City Attorney's Report. Don?
Thank you, Mayor. As prescribed by the city code, my report tonight is written. It looks like this. You each have one. Hope you have a chance to browse it and let me know if you have questions.
Riveting.
Pardon?
It's riveting. Very good.
Yeah, riveting is right. I've been sitting here thinking of things I forgot to put in. There are some, but we covered a lot. It was a busy year, 24% more time than the prior year, which is maybe surprising in this pandemic time, but maybe it reflects the increasing complexity and challenges we face.
Thank you, Don. Any questions for Don? All right. See none? Thank you for the report, Don. Item 8, engineers report. Jim?
Good evening, Happy New Year. Just a quick little update. I think tomorrow we'll probably be talking to you more about a couple of projects, at least those of you that are Public Works Committee. But one of the projects, one of the more impact projects would be 4th Street. We're going to resurface 4th Street from on the west side about where 10th Street would be, or almost to 11th Street. It's where the concrete starts or ends, depending which direction you're going. On the west side, all the way through Cross Grand out to 6th Avenue East. So we'll resurface that project. That's through the DOT. It's about an $800,000 project. You've received about a $400,000 grant. And those check plans go in on the 5th or tomorrow. Final plans go in on the 16th of February, and that's for a May 18th letting. So nothing gets let through the DOT in a quick fashion. If that was a local project, we'd be letting it, well, we'd probably be letting it by now. But it does take time to get those through. So that's the biggest project that we have, and that'll happen, construction probably in August. Overlay. So, and that's all I have unless I have questions.
Any questions for Jim?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Wes, I know you're on the phone. Did you have anything?
No, I don't have anything in particular. Yeah, nothing really. Just listening in tonight.
All right, thanks. Item 10, go ahead. Item 9, city manager's report. Amanda?
Thanks, Mayor. I just have a couple of things. We're kicking off our budget process this evening. The Finance Committee will meet to determine which agencies we want to meet with based on their funding requests. If you need me to resend you the flow chart or outline of how the budget process is going to work this year, I can certainly do that. But it's off to a good start. We're off and running. Hard to believe it's been almost a year since we met at the event center and started our strategic planning. And then we were waylaid by COVID and we're able to come back together this fall. So we're about 90 days out from the last time we got together. We landed with, if you remember, 4 buckets that we were going to work on, one most notably being the WOW project. There's some marketing in there, some internal stuff. So be on the lookout for a poll to schedule our next check-in on our goals. So at that time, we'll review where we're at with our current buckets. We'll make a determination if we need to make changes to those or continue on the path that we are. And we'll also make a determination if we want to add additional goals. We'll be looking at sometime in early February to do that. And the last thing I have, Spencer Area Jobs Trust met before Christmas and discussed a potential project. They're meeting again a week from tonight to review that project again. So there may be a request to the council on the next council agenda. So just to give you a heads up on that. And that's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you, Amanda. Any questions for Amanda?
Amanda, is it possible to get...
George, sorry, George. Can you put your microphone? There you go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Brian got you. You're on now.
All right, thank you. Would it be possible to get the amount that we might have sent to these folks last year?
Yep, Brian has all of that. So when we start the committee meeting after this, we'll have that for you.
Super, thank you.
Thank you, George. Any other questions?
No, that's all, thank you.
All right. Item 10, Mayor's Report. Just a few items here. A reminder for the citizens, when we do have a snow emergency, the Public Works Department works as hard as they can to clear everything out. It does take about a day and a half to get to everybody and get it all cleaned. And I know it feels sometimes like you're the last one, but we appreciate everybody's patience. And every snow event is different, as Mark likes to say. And so with that, we appreciate all the efforts that the snowplow drivers and everybody involved in moving the snow has. And thank you to all the citizens who keep their sidewalks clean and clear, and all the downtown business owners as well. So We are in snow season. Roll-offs for recycling, just a reminder, we need to keep those areas clean. I did see some pictures where it's gotten out of hand a couple weeks. So please just be studious of making sure that your items get in the containers. It's one thing if the containers are full and they're overflowing and we need to get them dumped. It's another thing if there's still capacity in the containers and there's a mess outside. So I think the recycling containers at Walmart and the Hy-Vee parking lots have increased our total recycling, and we appreciate the citizens doing that. So just a reminder to treat that as it needs to be treated. It is time, there's a couple of new council people that came on board that haven't gone through Amanda's job review that we do every year, and so it's in January. That's when she was hired, and so her contract has an annual review clause. So I'll be meeting with Amanda this month, and then we'll use similar criteria that we've done in the past. And after I meet with Amanda, I'll get a memo out to all of you, and we'll proceed forward with that. So it's something we do every year in January, this time of year. Time capsule, Becky Fear from the Chamber of Commerce came and presented at Rotary today. And for those of you who are interested, in June at Flagfest, they'll be opening a time capsule that's currently buried at the courthouse. It was buried 50 years ago, from what she said. Nobody could really remember, that was at the meeting, what all is in it, but they're going to open that during Flagfest. And then they're also going to have a new time capsule put together. And so she is soliciting any ideas that people would have of things that you would like to see go in the new time capsule to be opened at a future date. And she did want to remind the community that there'll basically be two celebration times, one during Flagfest and then one in October of this year for the 150th anniversary of the city of Spencer. So if you have any suggestions that you would like to see, please contact the chamber office. I'll be working with Amanda to do a 2020 recap press conference in January, probably be the middle to the end of January, but we'll go over what we accomplished in 2020 as a city, as well as what we're looking forward to in 2021. And so look for that. It'll be normal format. We'll do a Facebook Live and on our YouTube channel as well. So that'll be coming up later this month. And with that, I would entertain any questions you might have. Bill?
Has the city, or maybe for either one of you, has the city been getting any phone calls from people wondering about the COVID vaccine and timing and all that sort of thing?
Good, Amanda.
We do get some inquiries, and I forward them on to public health. The city as an entity doesn't have any role in administering or determining who.
I just think it's important to citizens. I found out this afternoon that the public health is really the one that they need to be contacting, as opposed to the city or anybody else.
Yep. So, and public health's good at responding
Yes, they are.
and answering those questions.
Thank you.
Good question, Bill. Any other questions? All right, item 12, I would entertain I jumped item 11, council committee reports, upcoming meetings.
We have a Public Works Committee meeting tomorrow, starting at 6 p.m. We'll be discussing the service line warranties contract, the sewer study, and the storm sewer to service the new development on the west side of town. Then we have a regular city council meeting January 18th at 6:30 p.m.
All right. Item 12, I would entertain a motion to approve the bills and claims.
So moved.
First by Bill, lightning quick. Second by Tracy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. Item 13, other business opportunity to address the council. Would anyone like the podium or microphone? Shy crowd tonight. Looks like nobody. Item 14, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. First by Tom. Second by Donovan. Before I hit the gavel, quick congratulations to the Iowa State Cyclones on their big bowl victory. So it's great for the state of Iowa. We are adjourned. You want to take 5 minutes? 5 minutes?
Yeah. 5